Hello, everyone. Jared Hoffman here once again with another edition of the Better Than Less Than podcast. If you are new here, this is a podcast for the Division II and NAIA HBCUs, all the latest news, hot topics that go on in the CIAA, the SIAC, the HBCUAC, and our independent HBCUs like Langston, Lincoln, Missouri, and Zula, and so on. You will get that here. You can also watch the MEAC and More podcast with Chris Stevens, where he talks about obviously the MEAC and the independent HBCUs at the Division I level, like North Carolina A&T, Tennessee State, and Hampton. And then we have the SWAC page podcast with Ken Rashad and Kendrick Marshall, where they talk all things SWAC, the big boys of the HBCU sports realm. So if you are new here, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can subscribe to become a level 1, 2, or 3 member to get all the exclusive content here at HBCU Sports. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can follow us on all of our social platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Blue Sky, we're on all the social platforms you can think of. And you can always go to hbcusports.com for all the latest news in HBCU sports. Now, of course, we have the biggest topic of the week at the Division II and NAIA level, that the CIAA tournament will be staying in Baltimore. We will get to that in a second, but first we have to put a bow on what we've been talking about for the past 2 weeks, and that is the Division II and NAIA track and field championships. Just want to put a bow on that now that the Division I East and West regional first rounds are going on. We just want to congratulate all of the HBCU athletes at the Division II and NAIA level that qualified for the track and field championships. Just a remarkable performance across the board, especially at the Division II level. Just 21 individual athletes qualifying for an event final and 10 finishing in the top 3 of their respective event. Lincoln, Missouri was the biggest performer of the week at the track and field championships at any level, finishing first in the women's 4x400 relay. Shavonne Thomas on that third leg really powered her team to victory. They were in fourth, I believe, when she got the baton. And by the time she handed it off to the anchor leg, which was, Lord have mercy, I don't think it was Odisha Denton. I don't think it was Odisha Denton. I'm sorry. The name escapes me right now. Who was on that the anchor leg for Lincoln, Missouri? But I do know that Shavonne Thomas was key to Lincoln taking home that gold in the women's 4x400 relay. Almost completed the double. The men came in second. Had a great run. That was another one where they got off to a slow start and then they got out to the front. I believe by the third leg. Also, they also got off to the third leg. They got out to the lead by the third leg, but it was that anchor leg. The Pittsburgh State was the one who took home the win, and it was the Open 400 champion who powered them to victory in that the Pittsburgh State's relay team did. But elsewhere we had a lot of other great finishes. Cavell Bird out of Dillard had a spectacular performance at the NAIA track and field championship. She finished third in the women's 100 meters and second in the women's 200 meters. She believed the only athlete across all the championships that finished in the top 3 in 2 separate events. So congratulations to her on an incredible performance. We also had Javon Riley out of Claflin, who finished second in the 400 hurdles. We had a bunch of guys who finished in the top 8 of the 400 hurdles. We had 4 guys who qualified for the finals of the 400 hurdles, and Javon Riley was the best finisher of all of them. Out of Claflin, finished in second. Shareem Hamilton from Lincoln, Missouri, finished third. Clinton Legure, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong, but he finished sixth. He's also out of Lincoln, Missouri. And Muhammad Adoini from Johnson C. Smith finished in seventh. Johnson C. Smith is a sleeper team. They have 2 guys in Muhammad Adoini, who I just said who qualified for. He didn't qualify for the finals of the 100 hurdles, but he participated in the 100 hurdles. He's a freshman. And then you also have Tyson Williams, who won the indoor 200-meter title. He's a freshman. So, dang, Lennon, really? Anyway, so like I was saying, Tyson Williams and Muhammad Adoini are both freshmen who are rising stars in Division II track and field. I sincerely hope that they stay at Johnson C. Smith and they ride it out there, because they are special talents in their respective fields. I forgot to mention Tyson Williams finished third in the 200 and fifth in the 100. So one of the guys from Johnson C. Smith just transferred to South Carolina. Really? Wow, that's news to me. That is news to me. So I'm gonna do my due diligence once I get off this stream and find out. I'm pretty sure that it would either be Tyson or Muhammad Adoini that would be the guys that transferred to South Carolina. So I'll look into that. But yeah, those are two guys that are freshmen that are rising stars, and if they do go to South Carolina, they have a lot of time to develop and get stronger, and find their niche in their respective events. They have a lot of time to build their college careers. So, but Lincoln, Missouri, I just want to tip my hat to them. Victor Thomas, their track and field coach, is phenomenal, and he has a juggernaut on their hands. It was Tyson Williams. Oh, okay, yeah, wow. That I'm gonna do my due diligence when I get off this stream, because he's somebody that's on the rise, and I'm going to be following him wherever he goes, if it's South Carolina or anywhere he decides to go after that. But yeah, Victor Thomas out of Lincoln, Missouri. He has a program on his hands. He has not a program. He has a dynasty on his hand. We could see the beginning of what we saw with George Williams at St. Augustine's. He has that. Listen to all of the athletes that qualified for finals from Lincoln, Missouri. You have Shareem Hamilton in the 400 hurdles, Clinton LeJour in the 400 hurdles, who we just talked about earlier. You already talked about their 4x4 team. You also have Wesley Tyndall, who was in the men's long jump. He finished third. Shantae George, who qualified for the 200-meter final, she finished eighth. Shavonne Thomas, who I just talked about in the third leg, who powered them to victory in the 4x4. She qualified for the 400 finals and finished eighth. Chanel Clark Giddings in the women's 800, which the 800 is not an event that we are normally great at. That's not normally where we shine, but she finished sixth in that event. And that just shows you the level of talent they have from top to bottom in that track and field program. And a lot of those athletes still have eligibility remaining. They're going to be there for a little while. I think Odisha Nanton is the only one who was a senior. I'm not sure about that. I'm not completely sure about that, but I believe Shareem Hamilton is a sophomore. So the majority of their athletes will be returning, and they have a bright future ahead of them. I would not be surprised to see them go on a St. Augustine's type run, but it was just a great performance all around. I also want to give props to Dillard's men's 4x400 relay team, who finished third in that relay. So congratulations to them. So that's a little bow on the Division II and NAIA track and field championships. So we'll be focused now on the Division I. We don't cover that here. We're not going to cover the Division I track and field championships here, because like I said before, this is the Division II and NAIA show. So if you want the Division I coverage, you can go to the MEAC and more, and you can go to the SWAC Page podcast. And of course, I will be covering the Division I track and field championships on HBCUsports.com. So if you want to follow along on all the updates on the Division I track and field championships and how our Division I athletes, Division I HBCU athletes are doing, then you can go to HBCUsports.com for that. Now, we're going to get to the biggest story of the week, which is the CIAA Tournament is staying in Baltimore through at least 2029. So the CIAA Tournament was in contract to be in Baltimore through at least 2026, prior to a recent bid by Charlotte to who obviously was the host for the CIAA tournament, I believe from 2006 to 2021 before Baltimore took over the contract in 2022. So their bid was from 2027 to 2029. And Baltimore is actually doing right by the seat. We'll get into that. But the Charlotte's bid was for 2027 to 2029, and the CIAA tournament before Charlotte put out its bid. I was about to say Johnson C. Smith because they're in Charlotte, but before Charlotte put out its bid for the CIAA tournament, the CIAA actually put out a list of requirements for the next host city, the next potential host city who for the CIAA tournament. And some of it was that there was, I believe, an 8,500 seat requirement for the host arena. And there was a hotel pricing requirements. And as CIAA Watcher said, that lesson here is don't submit a bid if you can't meet the qualifications of the contract. Those radio hotels cost the Queen City the bid in part. That played a part in it. That was one of the reasons why the Charlotte lost the bid. But let's get into a quote got that the Charlotte Business Journal got about the situation. Here's what the quote that they gathered based on their sources with knowledge of the situation. So it reads, for those who can't see, I'll read it along for you. Charlotte's proposal covering 2028 to 2030 because of a conflict in 2027 offered use of the Spectrum Center uptown for 2 of the 3 bid years, but would have moved the CIAA to Bojangles Coliseum for the middle year. Conference executives previously made clear to Charlotte tourism and political leaders throughout the lead up to bid proposals that the CIAA did not want to play outside uptown. Charlotte City Council members Malcolm Graham and James Mitchell were key figures in the bid led by Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. Despite praising the bid's assembly, both councilmen described the proposal to use Bojangles Coliseum in 2029 as dead on arrival, underscoring the CIAA's insistence on hosting all games at the Uptown Spectrum Center, home of the NBA's Charlotte Hornets. And we go on to Charlotte Mayor Valaus attributed the failed bid to scheduling conflicts at key venues, not individual shortcomings. Unfortunately, Charlotte was unable to accommodate the 2027 bid due to fully programmed commitments in key uptown venues. This outcome is not the fault of any individual. It simply came down to scheduling conflicts. So, like we said, the hotels did have something to do with it. Shout out to Chris Stevens in the chat. Shout out to the CIAA for knowing their worth. Charlotte messed around and found out. So, also, we have CIAA Watcher who says the CIAA did it publicly too, with release of qualifications they absolutely did. They made it public shortly after this year's CIAA tournament concluded. They made it clear about what the arena requirements were. They made it clear what the hotel requirements were. They made all of that clear before the. And then you said Bojangles Arena is a dump. I don't have too much experience with the Bojangles Arena. I've been to the Spectrum Center. I haven't been to the Spectrum Center. No, I've only been to the Bojangles Arena, I believe, once, and it wasn't even for CIAA's. It was for a high school state championship. So I'm not too familiar with Bojangles Arena, but yeah, I think Charlotte. This feels like it was a spur of the moment type of thing. I think they saw an opportunity to get in the race and didn't really have much planning beyond that, beyond submitting the bid. You know, this is a type of situation where you have to plan this out years in advance. Like take DC, for example, who are planning to host the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 for the NCAA Division I basketball tournament. They are renovating. They were doing renovations for the home arena, which is Verizon Center, or what is known now as Capital One Arena. They've been doing renovations all season in preparation for the Division One tournament coming to DC. But they submitted the proposal for those renovations long before that, long before it even reached the public. You have to plan these things out a year or two in advance if you plan on submitting a bid to host a big event like the CIAA tournament. The CIAA tournament is the biggest cash cow in HBCU basketball. It is the biggest basketball tournament in all of HBCU basketball. So if you're going to submit a bid for that, you have to make sure everything is in place. You have to have communication with the hotels. You have to have communication with everyone in city council. You have to have communication with the arenas and the arena owners and the arenas, like everybody that is involved. You have to have all of that in place. And it seemed like Charlotte didn't have any of that in place prior to. That there was supposed to be other bidders, but it could be that they did not meet the qualifications and thus backed out of submitting bid. I'm not sure about that. There's nothing publicized about the other cities that were in contention or could have made a bid. I'm not sure on that. Maybe there were cities that wanted to do it, but probably there's not a lot of arenas that have 8,500 seats. You know, of course NBA arenas do. They have those easily, but in terms of like smaller arenas, like Baltimore is blessed to have Royal Farms Arena. Or I'm not sure if that's what it's called now, but that's what I know it as. It's Royal Farms Arena. But they really took the tournament for granted when they had it. Hotel prices, the lack of scholarship dollars for the conference. And that's another thing about Baltimore. One thing about Baltimore that they have done well is that they have bridged the gap between college recruiting and the events for the youth. Like they'll have just like they do at the Division I level. They'll have game slots where for one or two games, it's nothing but middle school or high school kids there, and they're enjoying the games and they're communicating with the mascots. It's like that's how you grow the tournament, is that you get the schools from the city involved. Like you show them what a college atmosphere feels like. You open the eyes to the tournament, not just to the alumni, but you open it to the community. It's bigger than just, having a bunch of people representing their schools. You have to also educate people who may not know about the CIAA tournament or may know about the CIAA tournament, but would never experience it. You know what I mean? And so I'm not sure what it was that ultimately that did in Charlotte. I don't know if because I previously spoke out of ignorance in the past because I didn't really know how Charlotte treated the CIAA tournament. I know it was a great time, but I don't know behind the scenes what it was like for them promoting it to the city. Charlotte is a great city. It's a great city, and it's deserving of hosting a big basketball tournament. But they have to understand that it's bigger than just having the teams come in and putting them up in a hotel and just letting them do the work. No, you have to do the work. You have to do the work along in association with the conference. I watch a big commenter. I was shocked when someone posted online a receipt from the hotel where they had a CIAA fee on it. Wow. And then you have plenty of arenas over 10,000 capacity in Baltimore, DC, Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte. No, there are plenty of arenas, but there are also other things. I know I said that there's not a lot of arenas that have over 8,500. There are, but you have to also think logistically Is it in proximity to hotels? What is travel like? What are travel fees going to be like for teams and for the fans as well? You know, like there's like, for example, I'm in Upper Marlboro right now. There's an arena, Showplace Arena, in the middle of Upper Marlboro where the courthouses are. It's not in anywhere within proximity to hotels, and parking at that arena isn't the best. It's a congested parking lot. So like travel would be very difficult to get to that arena. That's what I probably should have said. There are arenas that have over 10,000 seats. There are, but there's some that easily clear 8,500. But you have to think about logistically how would travel work for not just the schools, but for the fans as well. It would be very difficult. The traffic that will be coming in, like I said, that's in the middle of the courthouse. Now, that's just one example. There's other arenas that could be in use, but that's just one example of how logistically does it work in terms of travel. How logistically does it work in terms of, a promotion. Like, you got to think about how the city promotes that. So if a city can't promote a high school state championship well, how do you think they're going to do with the CIAA tournament? So Elizabeth City hotels are trying to price gouge for homecoming for ECSU. See, like, City of Charlotte benefited more the CIAA tournament than the actual conference did. Yeah. And the CIAA noticed that. I attended the CIAA tournament and the ACC tournament in Charlotte. There was a huge difference in how they treated one over the other. Y'all got the knowledge. I need to know that, because the ACC tournament, to be fair, the ACC tournament, like, that's always going to be priority and over most conference tournaments, because that's the mecca of college basketball, is the ACC. That's where all the big cash cows are. That's where Duke is. That's where UNC is. Duke and UNC alone, before I see any other schools. So not saying that you're wrong. You're absolutely right that Charlotte probably treated that with more urgency than they did the CIAA tournament, but you heard those stories from people that attended in Charlotte. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I'm glad to stay. Me personally, I'm glad to stay in Baltimore. I hate to be biased, but I'm not from Baltimore, but it's close. It's easier for me to get to Baltimore than it is for me to get to Charlotte. So bias kicking in. Of course, I'm glad it's staying in Baltimore, but you can't discount not just how Baltimore treats the CIAA tournament, but how the state of Maryland treats the CIAA tournament. Like, they promote it on, like, there's national commercials of the CIAA tournament down here. There's national commercials of the CIAA tournament, and there's billboards everywhere along the city. Everywhere. That's how Baltimore treats it amazingly. They treat it like the big deal that it is. So I don't know if Charlotte. Yep. Okay. And then got to the airport. There were billboards coming. Exactly. That's how they treat the CIAA tournament. Like, you'll see, there's this big bridge, and leading into the arena where the host arena is. There's this big billboard of all the CIAA teams and their logos on that bridge, and it's traffic all through that part of town. where you go into the arena at. You look at the light rail, which is a method of public transportation in Baltimore, and you see all the CIAA branding there at the different stops at the different stops for the different light rail stations in Baltimore. That's the MARC station. You see the CIAA banner at MARC stations in Baltimore. Like they promoted like the cash cow that it is, and it not only gets the people who are coming into the city excited for the CIAA tournament, but it gets people who are from the city, not just people coming from out of town who are coming in to see it, but it gets the people who are from the city excited. Like, what's all this stuff? People who probably never even went to college. Like, let me see what this about. Let me go into the city and be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that stuff like that is important. Stuff like that is important. Promoting it, branding it. And that's what the CIAA wants. And apparently Charlotte just couldn't give it to them. Like they said, we read the quote where they talked about scheduling conflicts. You got to have that ironed out in advance. The bid was for 2027 to 2029 initially. But because of 2027 conflicts, they went to 2028 to 2030. And they didn't, I guess the communication between them and the hotel. I don't want to speak like what I'm saying is facts. Let me make that clear. I don't want to speak like everything I'm saying is facts. What I said in the report is what's in the report. But as far as the hotels, that's not clear. Everything about that wasn't clear. Now, there were reports about, the hotel prices being, the CIAA wanting hotel prices to be at the maximum to be $225 a night. That's from, I forget where that report is from. That might also be from the Charlotte Business Journal as well. But I think that Charlotte wasn't willing to accommodate, and I think they wanted $250 a night, and that's not what was in the requirements from the CIAA. So I just feel like this came down to CIAA. The Charlotte really missed the CIAA. They see how well it's doing in Baltimore. They see the investment from Wes Moore, the Maryland's governor, from Brandon, from the Baltimore mayor. My bad. I was about to completely mess up that man's name. Oh, Brandon Scott. I was about to say Byron. I was about to say, like, the investment from Maryland leaders, the investment from Baltimore leaders, like, and they feel like they could do that. But the problem is everybody has to be in sync. You see, oh shoot, they talking about something else. Wonder why Greensboro didn't bid any. I'm not sure. Greensboro would be that is a great city. They would be a great host. It probably comes down to the fact. I don't know for sure. They've hosted it before, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to improve their bid next time. As this is the Charlotte's second time. Oh, Charlotte's not done. They've made it clear that they will go back to the drawing board and they're going to submit another bid. Like in 2029 or 2028, whenever there's another open bid, Charlotte will be involved. They've made that abundantly clear that they are not out of the CIAA tournament sweepstakes. They are not. Either stay up north, like in Baltimore, never go south. Let the SIAC bid for Charlotte. I'm not sure that will work out for the SIAC. The attendance is already struggling for the SIAC tournament as it is. Putting it in Charlotte would just make it even more difficult. Travel costs would be way too difficult because most of the teams are in Georgia. So, of course, you got teams in South Carolina like Allen and who else? Allen and somebody, Benedict. Allen and Benedict are both in South Carolina, so it works for them. But then you got Albany State, who's in Georgia. You have Clark Atlanta, Georgia. You have Miles, Alabama. You have, like Kentucky State. Like all those schools will be, the travel costs for them would be difficult. So I'm not sure if Charlotte is the solution. The SIAC tournament in general, it doesn't work because the promotion isn't there for it. It's not a big event like the CIAA tournament is. So I'm not sure. I don't think Charlotte is the solution for the SIAC. If anything, South Carolina would be a good choice, but maybe Alabama. Maybe Alabama would be. That's where the HBC UAC tournament is. Now that's a good. The MEAC, it'd be perfect for the MEAC. Charlotte would be perfect for the MEAC. Did I say Edward Waters? Did I say Edward Waters? I don't remember what I said. I know I said Allen and I said Allen and Benedict were in South Carolina. I knew Edward Waters is in Florida. They're in Jacksonville, I believe. I believe it's Jacksonville. But the MEAC even bid out their tournament. I don't know. That's Division 1. MEAC is Division 1. We doing Division 2 NAIA here. But yeah, I'm glad that the back on schedule. I'm glad that the CIAA tournament is staying in Baltimore. It'll be here through at least 2029. We'll see if they continue, if they try to hold on to it into the 2030s, or if Charlotte may come back with another bid. Maybe Greensboro comes with a bid. Who knows? Maybe maybe Virginia gets it. Maybe Richmond gets it. Who knows? But we'll never know. What I would really want. I'm not saying this would make sense, but I really want DC to get it. I would love for DC to get it. If they put it in entertainment and sports arena, that would be a dream for me. Metro access, travel would be so much easier. Travel would be so much easier to go into DC than Baltimore for me. So my dream would be DC gets it. Especially since DC they promote every event that happens in their arenas. I know that for sure. So I know that the CIAA tournament will be well taken care of in DC. Not saying that it's not well taken care of in Baltimore, because we outlined, Baltimore promotes it incredibly. But I would really love for it to be in DC. just speaking as a biased party. But only problem is that if the MEAC would demand that the tournament be at the Spectra Center, it would probably be at Bojangles Center. Yeah, I mean that's on Charlotte that's on Charlotte to be flexible and understand that you don't have a horse in the race. You don't have any bargaining chips. It's not like any. Let's put it like this: Charlotte needs those tournaments more than the tournaments need Charlotte. So they have to bend to certain terms if they want to host these tournaments. I think Charlotte knows that they need the tournament more than the tournament needs them, and they're not willing to, and they're being kind of stubborn about the terms of requirements for the host city. But look, we'll see what happens with Charlotte in the coming years if they put out a bid for other basketball tournaments, if they get back in the CIAA tournament sweepstakes. All I know is now that it's in Baltimore through 2029, and Baltimore, they've been the host city that the CIAA tournament has needed, and I would not be surprised to see them host it throughout the 2030s. So we'll keep y'all locked into those developments as they come. But as for now, this could be the end of this edition of the Better Than Less Day podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in the chat. This has been the most live chat that I've had for a Better Than Less Than podcast. So shout out to y'all. But Please, if y'all can, hit the like, comment, and subscribe to the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to become a level 1, 2, or 3 member. You can follow us on all of our social platforms. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of the social platforms. You can always stay tuned for all the latest news in sports at hbcusports.com. And keep it locked in with us on the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. We got a round table coming for you guys tomorrow. That's where we talk about all the latest news HBCU sports, and we may have a topic that has nothing to do with HBCU sports or sports in general at all. So keep it locked in with us. Until next time, see you guys.